Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining another one of our diverse careers events. Thanks so much for joining, and I'm sure this is going to be a super valuable sessions as they always are. You always let us know they're super helpful, so I'm sure this is not going to be an exception. My name's Toby. If you're not aware, I'm sure you are aware of me by now, but I'm the founder of Diverse, and we're essentially here to help you get roles with inclusive employers in the UK. Um, and there's for some reason Mirage just started telling us all about lunch, but yeah, thanks so much. One second, we're going to get to the programs in just a second. I'm going to give a bit of an intro, but yeah, essentially we're here to help you in your career by giving you insights, tips, and events like these with employers. And right now, we're going to be talking about a management training scheme. So, we're going to be sharing insights, letting you know what they're all about, what the benefits are, and then also some tips on how you can actually get on a management training scheme. And we're going to be here with Sanger, who are a research organization in the genetics and genome space. They do hugely important work to help research and help us learn more about infectious diseases so we can make therapies and so on and vaccines and things like that. And Dawn and Jenny are going to tell us all about that and all about what it's like on the management training scheme. And there's actually one live now. So I've pinned a management training scheme to the top of the chat, which you can go through and apply to if you're keen. But don't do that just yet. We're going to be giving you lots of tips to help you with that process, first of all. And before I introduce Dawn and Jenny, I did just want to also mention we've launched a private community hub now for you to network with each other and kind of learn from each other and benefit from some of the graduates that have got roles at, Warner Media and Unidays and some of the companies that we work with. And so after this session, you're going to get an email about that with details on how to get logged in. But without further ado, I'm going to send it over to Jenny and Dawn. Dawn, do you want to start by introducing yourself and let us know a little bit about what you do?
Hi, thank you so much, Toby, and welcome all. It's really nice that you're able to join us this afternoon. So, as Toby said, my name's Dawn Percival, and I head up the learning and engagement here at Welcome Sang Institute. I've worked for the institute now about 7 or 8 years, and I look after the management training scheme here at Sanger. I also look after all of the training and development for all of our staff here on campus. We have around about 1,200 staff here. It's a really fantastic place to work, and hopefully, as we go through the session this afternoon, we'll tell you a little bit more about what it's like working here on campus. I'll hand over to Jenny.
Thank you, Dawn. So my role at Sanger is HR Project Coordinator, and as part of that, I look after the management training scheme. I started with Sanger in September 2020, so I've kind of seen this really interesting transition of how Sanger's dealt with the pandemic and that transition between being everything online to hybrid to now doing a lot more stuff in person and on site and getting to enjoy the beautiful campus. And I am actually a former trainee, so when I joined Sanger, I joined as a management trainee, and I was part of the scheme. So it's a really fantastic scheme, and I don't think I can say enough positive things about it, but I will let Toby direct his questions towards us in terms of that.
Awesome. It's great to have you both here, Dawn and Jenny. Thanks so much for giving up some time. And just to explain it as well, guys, we're going to be taking questions. So do drop in your questions in the question tab. You'll see that just at the top to the right of the chat with the question mark. Make sure you get just the most out of the session, really. I know you attend a lot of career sessions with university, but this is going to be a lot more interesting and impactful, I'm sure. And the only thing we ask is that you just really engage, comment and ask questions so you can get the most out of the session. And you can add those questions in throughout, and we'll get to them at the end in the Q&A. And before we really do get started, let me know who's there in the chat. Let me know if this is the first session you've been to, or you've been to many in the past. Just drop a little comment, say, first time, second time, whatever. Love to know, who's been here before and who's joining for the first time. But Dawn, do you want to give us a very just quick overview of Sanger, first of all, just so we can kind of all wrap our heads around it a little bit more?
Sure. I think you gave a really nice overview actually already, but we are a research institute. We've been around for about 25 years now, and we conduct research into all areas of human health. And we have 5 main areas of research. That said, although we are a scientific research organisation, we employ people in various different roles, not just scientists, but we also have lots of support staff as well. So not just researchers, but it could be people working in finance, it could be people working in procurement, all over the institute. We employ, as I mentioned, around 1,200 staff, and we're based on a single campus here at Hinxton, so just north of Cambridge, in a lovely village near Saffron Walden. And we're on part of a large campus, so we have other organisations here on campus. But it's got a really lovely sort of university campus feel. We are very pioneering. We do lots of work with other organisations. We do lots of collaborative work. But the key part of what we do here is research into genomics.
Amazing. Love that. No, that was a much better overview than what I said. So thanks so much for that. And I forgot to mention as well, guys, you can actually vote for the questions that you want to be answered first. So if you just go over to the question tab, just click that arrow and you can vote from there. So Katerina, first time, welcome. Ori as well. Hi, Zoe. Thanks for joining, everyone. Really, really appreciate it. So yeah, over to you then, Jenny. What I really want to know, first of all, is what is a management training scheme? I think maybe not everyone is familiar with the terminology, and they might like the sound of it, but not know the ins and the outs. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, so a management training scheme is quite hard to define because it can really vary according to what organisation you're looking at. As a general overview, most management training schemes or graduate management schemes are kind of the same thing. Look at kind of providing you with training and support in your kind of beginning your management career. They're usually a kind of first step after university or an apprenticeship or any kind of education you might have been doing for a few years into that kind of the world of management and your first step in a career kind of thing. At Sanger, our management training scheme is 2 years long, where you do 4 rotations in 4 different departments, 6 months in each department. We really pride our management scheme with how diverse the placements are, and that you get an overview of kind of management operations, as well as a bit of an insight into what happens in the scientific world of Sanger. But don't worry, it's not too overwhelming in terms of science. I don't have a scientific background. I did history at university before I came to Sanger, so you don't need to have a scientific background to do our management training scheme. And actually, we really encourage people of all backgrounds because it brings together like unique ideas that you wouldn't see if you're all from biology degrees, for example. Like, we want to have that diversity of background. It's really important to us.
Awesome. No, that sounds really, really good. And what did you think was the benefit maybe beforehand? So why did you decide management training scheme was the right way for you to go?
Yes, that's a really good question. I think when I was in my final year of university, I kind of really decided that I wanted to be on a scheme rather than going straight into a full-time job, because being on a scheme gives you that window and kind of a little bit more breathing space for training, which has been really important. Because you get that bit more like assisted training in terms of like development and opportunity. And you also get that chance to explore different careers, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And a scheme that gives you 6 months in 4 different jobs, each like over a course of 2 years, I literally got to try out 4 different job roles before I kind of decided where I wanted to be. So I think they're really good if you don't know what you want to do and you want to have the opportunity for a bit more learning and development opportunity, then a scheme is a great option for you.
Absolutely, yeah. I found that really valuable. I did a graduate scheme where we rotated 3 times, and it's just really a unique opportunity. You don't really get that once you've gone past the sort of graduate scheme phase. You usually get into like a kind of a specific job role, and you either like it or you don't, kind of thing. But for me, I did a bit of marketing, a bit of business development, a bit of product management, and then straight away afterwards I knew what I wanted to do. But sometimes even more importantly, what I didn't want to do. And you save a lot of time doing that. So that's, I think, super valuable. So anyone who is listening and watching, I guess, at home, have a think about that. If you're not too sure what you want to do in your career, then, a training scheme or a graduate scheme where you get to rotate around a little bit to learn can be super valuable. And one thing I wanted to mention as well is, if you don't know what you want to do, that is absolutely fine. That's absolutely normal. I think sometimes we kind of get wrapped up in convincing ourselves that we need to have a plan or we need to know exactly what we want to do, because obviously employers often ask that question in the interview. But it's absolutely fine to say, look, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do in my career, but I'm intrigued by this management training scheme, want to learn more, I like these aspects, but keen to learn more. That kind of thing is absolutely fine. And so Jenny, that was one of the benefits, I guess, but what are some of the others? Maybe now that you've been on the scheme, what kind of things do you see as some more of the benefits of doing a management training scheme?
I think one of the huge benefits is networking. Even kind of, if you're not very good at networking, you don't enjoy networking, it can be quite intimidating to do networking. A management training scheme naturally facilitates you to have a really large network, because you go from team to team to team. So you kind of naturally, after a few kind of rotations, realize, hang on a second, I know loads of people here. I've worked with so-and-so in this team. I worked with this person on this project. So I think the networks that you build on a management training scheme are fantastic. And I think it's unlikely you'd kind of get that network working in any other kind of job role, just because it gives you such an amazing opportunity. I think the learning opportunity in that kind of free space that is okay to make mistakes, because at the end of the day, like, you are quite new, you've only been in the team 6 months, that kind of stuff. That, like, everyone that I have made mistakes undoubtedly throughout my time as a management trainee, but every time that I did, my line manager or whoever I was working with was really supportive, helped me work through it, kind of learn what went wrong, how could I improve, that kind of stuff. That support to learn is so important. And I don't think you always get that if you jump straight into a really specific job role where you're kind of just expected to just take on a load of work and not get the full training you need, perhaps, or something like that. So I think they're two of the really good benefits, is the networking and the learning opportunity. But yeah, and that kind of just chance to try out a few different things before you kind of have to pick, I need to pick a career now, where do I choose, type thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a very safe transition from university, I feel. And thanks everyone so far for the questions. You can I'm converting some of the chats into questions, but you can do it directly. If you go to the tab where at the top where it has that little question mark, you can drop your questions in there. And in order to vote, you just need to press that arrow on the top, and then we'll get to those in the right order. That was interesting, Jenny. I like what you said there in terms of that sort of safe space and making mistakes and it being okay. Is there anything more you can tell us about that? I mean, I don't know if you can tell us about any of the mistakes you made, but just I think to reassure people, I think that would be interesting. What was that like? And you kind of, because I think sometimes we worry about, what if I get something wrong? But can you tell us about that experience at all?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time when you make a mistake, the first thing you should try and do is see if you can solve it yourself before running over to someone and be like, in a mad panic. Something I've definitely learned is to just, if a mistake is made, it's okay, take a breath, take a moment. Can you fix it yourself? And then if you can't, that's when you need to ask for help. And asking for help is really important. But I think it's also really important to be able to kind of reflect and review on what you're doing and make sure that you're doing it in the right way. So, for example, when I was working in procurement, I had to contact suppliers to get quotes for a project, a space kind of project, because we needed to hire some additional space. Because despite having a massive campus, there's a lot of scientific equipment that needs storage and stuff at Sanger. So that's just one of the problems we were finding solutions for. So I was going out to suppliers and asking them for quotes for space based on square foot. I still can't quite get this right. And I gave them a quote for I think I gave them square meters, but I wanted it in square foot. And one of the suppliers came back to me and was like, that's a really tiny amount of space. We're not going to give you a quote for that. And then I realized my mistake. And I was like, oh no, I've given them the wrong measurement. So I was quickly able to just kind of correct my mistake, email them back and be, I'm very, very sorry. I actually meant this measurement. And then they were able to give me the quote. But it just meant that I then double checked all the emails I'd sent, made sure that I hadn't made that mistake anywhere else, and if I had, corrected it. And that's all you can do, really. And then just, you know, it happens. People make mistakes all the time, but that was definitely one where I felt quite stupid. But, you know, it was what it is. I fixed it. It's not a problem. We managed to find a supplier in the end, so it was all good.
That's nothing, Jenny. I mean, I appreciate you sharing, but that's not that bad. Come on. I'm sure I did much worse. I was on the VT graduate scheme, and my first role, I had to sort of like allocate when you basically sell a service to like commercial premises, you do it based on their like size, their like rateable value. And I basically just got loads of numbers wrong. So we ended up charging people loads less than we should have, and they were on like really long contracts. But the thing is, you know, I didn't get in any trouble because it does just happen sometimes. We do make mistakes. You know, we are humans, and all you got to do is, you know, let your manager know and learn from it, I guess. Is there anything you want to add to this, Dawn, in terms of, you know, advice, you know, when things inevitably do go wrong at work?
Do you know what? This happens to all of us. This happens to the best of us, doesn't it? And I think that the nice thing about the culture here is that, you know, that we don't have a culture of blame. You know, we don't blame people if people mess up and they admit that that's happened. You know, that's all we can ask. And you have to remember, this is a training scheme, so we accept the fact that not everybody is going to be perfect. Not everyone's going to have all of the skills that we might be looking for. Not everyone's going to have all of the experience we're looking for. That's the whole point of a training scheme, is that people learn as they go. It's a learning opportunity. And the thing I really like about this is that because there are 4 rotations each of 6 months, is that you do get to try different things. No one's expecting you to be a subject matter expert. The whole point is that you're given the opportunity to grow, develop and learn, and think about what you want to do. You know, there chances are that there's going to be one of those placements that you think, yeah, I love that, I've got a real passion for that, that's where my interest lies. And that's great, because actually what we really want to do in this scheme is retain our trainees. We want to offer them full-time jobs at the end. So, you know, we very much want to invest in our talent. We want to invest in our young people who join the scheme. Wherever we can, we will offer permanent roles.
Amazing. I love that. They're really, really valuable, really helpful. And keep the questions coming. It's great to see so many questions. Great to see you really, really engaged. Let me know in the comments of what you think, and any thoughts based on what we're saying. Do send it over. And jumping back to yourself, Jenny, tell us a little bit more about the transition then, because we've got a lot of people who are obviously students or recent graduates, maybe a little bit worried to be going into the working world. You know, is there anything you wish you knew beforehand? Is there anything, you know, about work that's been sort of difficult, just going from student life to work life, whether it's the hours or the sort of the culture or anything like that?
Yeah, I think my experience is probably slightly different because I started like in the middle of the height of the pandemic. So I kind of went from doing like online studies to then doing online working. So it was a bit, I didn't find the hours too much of a struggle personally, but I think that's because I was at home all the time. But I know friends that did find like having to then work 9 to 5 if you've had more of a relaxed degree, say for example a humanities degree where you often don't have that many lectures and stuff, can be a bit of a challenge. But I think at the moment Sanger is offering hybrid working, so you know we do have the opportunity to have a day or two at home, which kind of can just like aid that kind of rest a little bit, which I think is really important. I think I kind of went into starting the management training scheme, I didn't really think too much about it. I kind of like, I guess, wondered, oh, what will it be like? But my year was actually the pilot year for the scheme, so it was brand new, so there wasn't a huge amount of kind of like what's been done before. I think now we're in a much stronger position, and we can kind of share with prospective and future trainees, this is the kind of stuff you're working on, because we know that's what our previous trainees have worked on, type thing. So we've got examples, and if you are successful in your application and you get to go to an assessment centre day, the tasks you do at the assessment centre are actually based off real life tasks that our trainees have done. So it gets that flavor, which I think is fantastic, because then you kind of know, okay, so if I do get the job, if I do accept the job, this is the kind of stuff that I'd be doing, which is really good to know. And I wish that's what I'd known. So we've kind of already put in a lot in place to help trainees get that taste of what to expect if they're successful. But yeah, I think if I just was going to give advice to myself, would just be, don't worry about it too much. Like Dawn said, no one's expecting you to know anything yet, because you're a trainee, like this is all brand new. Then we have the support in place to help you kind of grow and flourish and all that nice stuff. So yeah, I think just don't worry about it too much. I know that sounds quite hard because you probably are worrying about it, and I know that feeling as well, but try and relax and just let yourself be yourself, because that's what we're really looking for, is, you know, those kind of people that can just be yourself.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's actually terrific advice that actually sometimes we forget to say. But you know, we build things up so much, don't we, in our heads? You know, the first job, like such a big deal, and then you realise you get there on the day, and actually there's a lot of training in place. You know, you don't have to be an expert on day one and all that kind of thing. And there's actually a question I wanted to ask both of you, I guess. So once someone is successful in this scheme, or it could be another similar sort of management graduate scheme, any advice on sort of really sort of performing well, like just grabbing it, running with it, and sort of doing your best? Any advice on that at all? I'll start with you, Jenny, and then maybe we'll go over to Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I kind of did is just say yes to everything, which isn't always a good thing, because sometimes you might find that you've got too much on, in which case don't say yes to everything. But if you have the capacity, then say yes to everything, because I took on projects that I never, like some projects I was like, oh, this kind of sounds boring, I don't really want to do this, but actually they ended up being some of my best projects that I did. You kind of never know what will come around the corner with this kind of thing, because a lot of work kind of comes up ad hoc, and like that can be really fantastic. So try and say yes to everything, but don't obviously overcommit yourself, because that's not a good thing.
Terrific. Yeah, and yourself, Dawn?
Yeah, I think I would add, play to your strengths. There will be stuff that you've done at university, stuff that you've done during your studies, or stuff that you've done as part of part-time jobs that you know you really love and you enjoy and you're good at. So when those opportunities arise for you to get involved in a piece of work or a project which allows you to play to your strengths, just do it. Grab all the opportunities that are out there. It would be great if you could do that. One, because actually we benefit, the organization benefits from you doing a job, doing it well. It's something you love. It's something that plays to your strengths. But we benefit and you enjoy it, and we get to see you at your best. So that would be my top piece of advice.
Terrific, I love it. And then if you've joined a little bit late, we're talking about the management training scheme that's live now, and generally a little bit about graduate schemes and management training schemes. I've pinned a link to the top of the chat for the role with Sangha, so you can click through to that and check it out. And we're going to be giving you some tips right now, actually, on how to do really, really well in that application process. So, Jenny, do you want to show your screen, talk us through the slides for a couple of minutes, and then I think Dawn, you've got some advice on how to do really well with the process.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 seconds. Let me just, I need to make this into a PowerPoint mode. Okay, that's not going to let me do that. We'll just go with it. Is that okay? Can everyone see the slides?
Yeah, that's showing up now.
Okay, why aren't you letting me open the slides? Okay, if I do this, can you see it as a PowerPoint view, or is it still just the slides?
Still just the slides, but
we'll just go through them like this. I think that will work.
That's fine.
Great. So our management training scheme, it's a bit about Sangha there, but I think we've already talked about that a lot, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This is an overview of the scheme rotations, and you can find all of this information on the website. And if you click on the link that Toby's pinned at the top, you can find a link within that to the website, and this has all the more detailed information about our rotations. But on the scheme, you could be in any of these. So we've got the director's office, we've got our parasites and microbes, which is the research program, human genetics, which is another research program, Sanger Logistics Services, we've got our change management department, cellular genetics, which is one of our research programs, scientific operations, legal and governance, we've got finance, the grants office, procurement and supply chain. So it's kind of a range of rotations spanning across our management operations side, as well as our scientific related programs or operations. So I'll just give an overview of the scheme. So we've got our salary on there, which is 25k, and you do have the option, if you meet all of your performance objectives, to have an increase, a salary uplift in the second year of the scheme. It's a 2-year rotational program. You've got 12 areas and programs to choose from. You would spend 6 months in 4 different programs or areas. We are offering a 2k interest-free relocation loan this year. So you'd pay this 2k loan back by salary sacrifice, but we appreciate that it can be really expensive when you're a graduate to be moving and relocating to a new area, especially Cambridgeshire. So it's really important to us that our trainees feel like they've got that capacity to move and relocate and be comfortable and not be worried about their finances. So that's a really fantastic thing we've introduced this year. Like I said before, all degree backgrounds are welcome to apply. I did a history degree, so it really doesn't matter if you've done a science background or not. We've got a number of benefits. Dawn, would you want to speak through these benefits?
Sure, yeah. So I guess there are a lot of benefits that we have here at Sanger, but I'll just point out the bits that might be of particular interest to you, and feel free to ask questions. We have a cycle to work scheme, which means that we can offer funding towards bicycles, so you can get to and from work and sort of repay that over a number of months. We have a free bus service that brings you onto campus. So whether that be if you're travelling from Cambridge or from Saffron Walden, the 2 closest towns and cities to the campus, which is great. So you can get to and from the campus sort of free of charge on a comfortable bus. We also have 2 paid volunteering days leave per year. So if you want to go and work for a charitable organisation, then you do get paid time to do so, which is a great CV enhancer as well. There's also things like we have free car parking here on campus. There's loads to do in terms of facilities for Keep Fit. So we have a gym, we have tennis courts, we have sports hall, all of which is heavily subsidised. You only pay a small amount of money to access all of these things on campus. There's always loads of social activities here as well. There's also, we offer discounts to different corporate organisations. So there's tons and tons of stuff going on here, loads of benefits, including 25 days of annual leave as well. When you become part of the management training scheme, we also set aside some money for you to have a quarterly social with fellow trainees. It's a really nice way actually of keeping in touch with fellow trainees. You can go out, you can go bowling, meal, etc. So we do help fund those sorts of activities. We also have something called a tech scheme, which means that we can offer you a loan so that you can buy equipment, whether that be, you know, a laptop, a printer, a camera, whatever it might be, from various suppliers. And again, you can repay that from your salary each month. So there's tons of really great benefits here at Sanger.
I'll just stop sharing, and then we can talk a little bit more about what we're looking for in terms of recruitment, if that's good, Toby.
And walk us through the exact application process and maybe just advice for each stage. That would be wonderful. We've got a few questions about that already. So
yeah, absolutely. So obviously at the moment you can apply, and there's the link that Toby's pinned at the top of the chat. So on you'll kind of see on the application form, there's some application questions, and then we ask for you to attach a CV as well. And what we're really looking for at this stage is to find out more about you. We're really interested in who you are and why you're interested in Sanger in particular, as well as being on a management training scheme. That's really what we're looking for. We're not expecting you to have tons and tons of work experience. We know that obviously we're kind of looking at people that are starting their careers. So we're not expecting loads of work experience. Don't worry about that. We just want to know about who you are as a person, why you're interested in the scheme, what kind of we're very passionate about our behavioural competency framework at Sanger, and you can find all of that on our website. Can you meet these behaviours? I'm sure you all can. They're kind of standard things like communication, collaboration, for example. We've got 6 in total. That's really what we're looking for at application stage. And the applications close, I'm pretty sure the date is the 29th of May. But again, it will be on when you go to apply, you'll see the dates there when it closes. So do try and get your application in before then, so you're not panicking by the deadline. That would definitely be a piece of advice I would like to give. And then once you have submitted your application, you'll hear from us within approximately 2 to 3 weeks as to whether or not you've been successful to then go to the assessment centre. So the assessment centre is usually about a half day, and it'll be virtual, so you don't need to worry about travel or anything. We'll do it online, and it's made up of a variety of tasks. So you'll do a group task, you'll do a kind of leadership task, potentially another task I'm still finalising what the tasks are that you'll be doing, and then you'll also have an interview. So it's a really good fun actually kind of thing, because you get to experience the kind of work that you might do on the management training scheme, because like I said before, the tasks are all based off actual work that trainees have done in the past couple of years. So it will give you a real good flavour of, if you are successful, this is the kind of work that you might do. So those will have the assessment centres, which I think are planned for mid to end of June. Again, just finalising dates on those. And if you are successful, you'll be sent the dates. And then once those are finished, you may be asked back for a second interview. If we have a lot of really good candidates, it might just be a case that we're deciding where best to place you, that kind of thing. If you are invited back for a second interview, that'll be the kind of first week of July, and then we're hoping to have everything wrapped up by mid to end of July, and that's when you'd know if you are successful.
Terrific. Thanks so much for walking us through that. So you've got sort of your application stage, you've got your assessment centres, interviews in there, a lot of that virtual as well. I'm going to jump around and ask a couple of questions, I guess, related to that, and for both you and yourself and Dawn as well. For the test phase, because I guess that's probably something that was a little bit new, maybe you haven't done something like that before. Is there something that you would recommend there? Is there something people typically maybe get wrong, they sort of rush in to do with those kind of exercises that you would kind of warn against?
I think it is rushing is usually where people go wrong, and not reading the material properly, because we're not trying to test you to fail or anything. We're not trying to make you go wrong. We want you to be successful. We want you to do well. We give you a lot of information. And I think in the past where I've seen candidates go wrong is where they've read through the information really, really quickly and kind of missed important parts of it, which was then inhibited their ability to do well in the task. So definitely take your time and read through things really carefully, because most of it is usually there. And don't rush. And if you do need a bit more time on the day, the assessors, they want you to do well. We're not trying to catch you out. Just say, can I just have an extra 5 minutes just to read through this again? I'm sure most of them will be really accommodating, and we'd rather that you take the time to read through the information than just rush through and not feel prepared.
Got it. So take your time, feel free to ask for questions, ask for more time if you need it, and don't rush in because you kind of miss some things. And it's easy to do, isn't it? Because you're a little bit nervous and you kind of want to look really efficient and do things quickly. But I think it's an important proxy for work, right? It's better to sometimes take your time and make sure you've read all the details and you're not sending the wrong numbers like I used to do, and getting the little things right. I think that's really important. So, and Dawn, I think you've got a few tips and tricks for us for interviews and how to do well there.
Yeah, I think with the interviews, preparing for interviews, the key is the preparation. I can't stress that enough. It's so important that you prepare for your interview as much as you possibly can. Research is key. So do as much research as you can around the organisation. Do as much research as you can around sort of the placements. Most importantly, my top piece of advice is make sure you're really familiar with the job description. Some people call it job description, some people call it role profiles. Just be really familiar in terms of what the role involves and what the requirements are, because there will be a person specification. So it will say these are the sort of the knowledge, skills and the experience that we're looking for. So the chances are that a lot of the questions you are going to be asked are going to be based around that job description. So have to hand some examples that you can talk about at the interview. Preparation is key. Cheesy though it may seem and uncomfortable though it may seem, have a go at practicing. Yeah, do a practice interview with somebody that you know, that you trust. Somebody perhaps if you have friends who work in human resources or what have you, they're really good people to sort of do a mini sort of mock interview with. So do that practice. The next thing I would say is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is so important because with graduate programs and the management training scheme, we recognise that a lot of people applying for these schemes aren't going to have vast amounts of work experience. So there'll be a limitation as to what they can talk about with experience. So actually what we're looking for and what other employers are looking for on these types of schemes is potential. We want to know that you've got potential. We want to know that you're going in with the right attitude and you've got the behaviours that we really value here at the Institute. So, do think about, your attitude when you go into that interview. Enthusiasm, natural curiosity and interest is key.
Brilliant. And I've just also attached a link to our practice guide as well. So I think Dawn made a fantastic point there. It's so valuable to practice before the real thing. It's kind of like, you wouldn't go into your driving test without, doing a couple of practices first with a car. So it's kind of a similar sort of concept. Practice out loud. If you can do it, as Dawn said, with someone else, fantastic. But if you can't do that for whatever reason, check out our guide and you can practice. And there's recordings of me asking you questions. So if you're not sick of my voice by the end of this, you can hear it a little bit more there.
And I think, sorry, Toby, I was just going to add, and this is a bit of a cliche, but please be yourself, because actually we really want to get to know you. Try not to be somebody who you're not because you think that might be what we're looking for, because interviewers can spot that straight away. So just be authentic.
Love that. So important. And yeah, I'm sure you're very excited to apply now. And there's lots of tips in there that we've shared that I think are really, really important. And what I often see, similar to Jenny's advice in the assessment centres, we often see candidates really rush in to apply. Honestly, it's much better to apply for one or two roles that where you just take your time and do a really, really good application than 10 or 20 where you just sort of sling in your CV left, right, and centre. It's going to be a lot easier on your mental health to do fewer and have fewer to track and fewer to prepare for. And that way you can do these things a little bit easier, as in understand a job description, do a tailored application, and the chances of you being successful are much higher. That we obviously talk to loads of candidates who have been successful with Sanger and other companies, and it really is those who kind of follow this path of taking their time, being very specific, being very tailored, very intentional in where they're applying and why they're applying, being very personal throughout the application process, in terms of why they're passionate about the role and the organization, preparing, making sure they understand what the company does, and then sort of bringing it to the table on the day, coming confident, as Dawn said, being yourself and giving answers that are really specific and relevant to you. And as much as you can, have a nice bit of rapport with the interviewer. You're going to be talking to people like Dawn and Jenny, they're not very scary. They want you to do well, as they said. And so, try and find out a little bit more about them, what they do, and that kind of thing. Get them chatting, and I'm sure they'll like you more. So have a go at that. And Dawn, I think a little bit more about the learning and development and the sort of well-being and what it's like from there in terms of progressing your career. So can you tell us a little bit about that, because there might be a few people who are kind of nervous about that transition to work?
Yeah, we want to put you in the best position possible to succeed. So we have lots of support here at Sanger. what we'll do is when you first join, we'll match you with a trainee partner. That will be somebody else on the scheme that you're assigned to who can be there if you've got sort of questions, or you find yourself at a bit of a loose end, or you think, oh, I don't know where the cafe is, and you might contact them and say, have you got time for a coffee? So that will be sort of almost the person that you can go to if you're feeling, I don't know, potentially a bit isolated, or you just want to chat. But you'll also work alongside a mentor, and a mentor will be an experienced member of staff here at Sanger who can guide you through and to navigate everything here, where to go for different things, people to see, how the organisation works. They'll understand the intricacies. And you'll also be assigned a trainee from the year above you. So somebody who's got a bit of experience of the scheme, knows and understands how things operate here. So we just want to make sure that you've got all that support around you from day one. We'll supply you with a really good induction program. So you're not just going to be thrown in at the deep end. There'll be lots of opportunity to find out what's going on and to do that at a comfortable pace. But there's also tons of learning and development opportunities here as well. We do lots of stuff for our trainees. So we do leadership training, we do project management training, some stuff around personality and how to get to know yourself better and your key strengths. We do loads of stuff in that space, all of which is fully funded. There's also an opportunity for you to apply for something called a further education scheme, which is sponsorship. So we would pay for other external training outside of the institute. So if there's a particular course you want to do that isn't currently on offer, we will fund that. So we're really dedicated to making sure you have a positive experience, one where you can really grow and develop and gain all the sort of skills and the knowledge that you need. Did you have anything to add, Jenny?
No, just to say that I think the opportunities available at Sanger are really, really good, like as well as the kind of the ones that we offer to the MTS, just a standard kind of core training that you can sign up for at Sanger is like really fantastic. I've done some really good courses that way that are just the standard ones that we offer everybody at the Institute. And they're also a great way to meet other people. Like just by doing some of these training courses, I've worked with some of the campus garden, like grounds team and stuff like that, which I never would have interacted with on a day-to-day basis. But the fact that we open up our training courses to like a lot of other people means you get to meet people from all over the campus, which is really great. As well as the kind of the courses that you would do with your fellow trainees and things like that. So there's lots of on offer, I think.
And I think it makes sense for us to invest in you because we see you as our future leaders. We see you as our next directors. So it makes sense for us to invest in you and your development.
Wow, yeah, tons of great benefits in that. And I'll just add, the campus is absolutely stunning. I went there, last year, and it's like an incredible university campus, basically. So very exciting. Let's dive into some of these questions then. I know that's what a lot of you are waiting for. And Jenny, some of these questions we might have covered at some point, but we might have joined a bit late, or maybe there's something else that you want to add in to expand on what we've already said. So I'm going to just pick out the ones that have got the most votes, and continue guys voting on the questions that you like as well. That helps us really see what's most useful for you as well. So one question here from Medlin, and thanks so much Medlin and everyone else who's asked the question. Does your organization support remote working?
Yes, so we do have a hybrid approach, but it will largely depend on the team in which you're based as to how much we can support that, but generally yes.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that can depend on the team and so on and so forth. So question here from Chids. Does doing the management training scheme mean our career path is going to be geared towards management only?
Not at all. I think it's really important here to point out that management can mean a variety of things. People often think that management means people management. So managing a person as a line manager, but actually management can mean so much more than that. It means time management, it can mean recruitment management, it can mean so many different types. If you actually look at our job description, we've got a kind of overview of what management actually means. And I think it's really important to think about like project management, for example. It's another one. They'll keep coming to me now. And it doesn't mean at all that you have to go into management. If you decide that you are really interested in, for example, a career in grants, you might be called a grants manager, but it actually means like helping people apply for grants, checking grant applications, doing some of the more technical side, because every funder has got specific funding portals and things. You have to be able to use all these different portals and technology, as well as liaising with collaborators, talking with funders about different things, all that kind of stuff. So that may not be what you think of a career in management, but it kind of technically is, because it's about grant management. So yeah, absolutely not. You don't have to be in a management career. What you might find as well is that the management training scheme will open up your eyes to different kind of careers that you never even thought about. I know for me, like I'd never thought about a career in procurement. And then when I did that placement, I was like, wow, this is actually really, really interesting. I never would have thought about working as a project buyer or like a procurement person. Like there's so many different jobs within that, kind of purchasing officer, those kind of jobs that I just didn't really know about. So that gives you that opportunity to find out about those different kind of job roles.
Terrific. And so, yeah, and I think that's really important to understand, because you could be managing a process or a product, not necessarily managing people. So, but that's why we do these sessions, because things like this is like, you know, it's hard to know these before you kind of speak to someone who works in an organization like this. So, a question from Aaron: what are some of the main benefits of going on to a management training scheme? So we've talked about that a little bit. You know, you get to rotate into different positions. Which means you get exposure to different departments, which is going to help you decide, you know, what you might want to do with your career. Great for networking, we've said as well. You know, lots of learning and development opportunities that Dawn's talked about. So yeah, it really helps with your transition from university, but also forward on into the future as well. Is there anything else you want to add to that? It's kind of a bit of a summary of what we've already said, but any other points to add?
I think for me, with the training position, you get a decent salary for learning, right? And ultimately, we want to retain our trainees. So you almost have the security blanket of knowing that there should be a job for you at the end of it. So you're learning as you go in a safe environment. You're being paid for doing that, and you're not. It's not that you're guaranteed a job, but it's very likely you'll have a job at the end of it.
Brilliant. And then there's a question kind of related to that from Varun as well. So you're essentially, you know, getting training, so you're going to improve, but you're also doing work as well. So you're kind of contributing and learning, if that makes sense. And obviously you get paid to do so. So it's kind of like I hope that helped explain it. It's kind of a unique opportunity to like training, learn, and then also contribute. And all of that will be with Sangha rather than, well, you do, I guess, have separate, you know, maybe have companies to come in to do some of the training, but that's sort of separate, isn't it? You've got your core course that you do in-house, right? And then there's other courses that you mentioned that you can get involved in. So I hope that clears it up. What else do we want to get to? How long typically is the recruitment process? Could you give us a summary of that again, please, Jenny? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, so applications are open now. Applications close on the 29th of May, and then we hope to have the whole process wrapped up by the end of July. So if you are successful, you would know by mid/end of July.
Fantastic. And so we went to the question on remote work. Did we mention visa sponsorships? There's been so many questions now. I'm trying to remember. Do we cover visa sponsorship? Do we just remind everyone of that one?
No, we don't. Do we, Dawn?
So we should be able to support visa applications. So we have a specialist here who works in our recruitment, visa and immigration team, who would be able to answer specific questions. You know, it's quite a complex area. So we do have a specialist in our recruitment team where we can, yes, we would support visa applications.
Fantastic. So a question from Chids here is, is a training scheme the same as a graduate scheme? I guess one of the, well, I'll let either Dawn or Jenny answer that first, and I guess I've got a thought there as well. But yeah,
yeah, I mean, largely, yes. In the main, they are the same. I guess the reason why we call it a management training scheme as opposed to a graduate training scheme is because we want to make the scheme available to all people, not just graduates. So young people who have got similar equivalent experience at a sort of graduate level. So we want it to be much more inclusive than a graduate scheme. But essentially, yes, they are largely the same.
Fantastic. And another question here as well. Is there any marketing as part of the scheme? So in any of those rotations, do any of them cover the marketing department or marketing type functions?
No, not really. Yeah, we do have a comms team at Sanger, but it's not one of the placements that you can go on. You might get involved in a little bit of kind of comms work on a placement, but it's completely ad hoc and there's no guarantee that that's the type of work that you could be doing.
Thanks for that one, Jenny. And the question from Patience here, she's got a background in health, nursing and public health. So I guess the question kind of here is, whether that's beneficial as well, because we've kind of talked about, having a degree that's different and moving into sciences. But for Patience in her example, she's got a little bit of a background in health and nursing. Is that kind of relevant skills? Is that, any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't ask for any specific background for our management training scheme. We encourage all backgrounds to apply. I think if you have got a background in health and nursing, you're probably quite passionate about scientific research. And that's really kind of what we're looking for, is people that are interested in the work that Sanger does, people that are passionate about helping others and helping improve global health. That's kind of what Sanger does. So like, I did a history degree, but I'm quite interested in science and the history of science. And at Sanger, this is where the first ever human genome was sequenced. And we've done some instrumental research in, cancer research, in various different viral research like COVID, all that kind of stuff. And it's just, I think if you're the type of person that is interested in working for a company or organization that wants to try and improve the world in a way, then absolutely you should definitely apply.
Absolutely, it's such an important point, and you're very humble at Sanger, but what you do has an incredible impact, on the world and on people's lives as well. So that's something to really think about if you want to get involved in working at an organization that is ultimately trying to help that big fight against infectious diseases and cancers and so on. It's tough to get more important than that. And that's the type of thing that I always thought about wanting to get involved in something that really has an impact, because you're going home at the end of the day and just thinking you're part of a big mission there that's having a significant impact on the world. So let's get through some more of these questions before we close. And as I say, thanks so much everyone for sticking around with us for that full hour and giving so many really, really good questions as well. And this is really going to help you in the process for Sanger, but also other organizations as well, because I think a lot of advice that we're giving is really, really relevant for other places as well. So another question here that's got lots of votes from Tosin, and thanks Tosin for the many questions. How do you make yourself stand out in the interview process for the management scheme? We've touched on this a little bit, but I just want to add one thing before I send it over to Jenny and Dawn to see if they've got any more points that we haven't added already. One thing that you can also do is really mention that you've been to this session. I think that really helps, because that shows you are interested. You took a little bit of time out of your day, took an hour out of your day to learn a little bit more about Sanger and the management scheme. you can reference specifically, oh, this is what, Dawn mentioned this, and I actually really thought that was interesting about the learning and development opportunities, or, Jenny mentioned this about her time on the scheme, and that really resonated with me. And that was part of why I decided to apply. That's going to really help you because, there's only so many people on this session versus everyone else who applied. And then straight away, they're going to, that might help you stand out a little bit. That's just a thought from me. But Dawn and Jenny, anything else to add on interviews?
I think for me, it's just to echo what I said earlier, really, which is just be authentic and be yourself. We really want to get to know you in the interview process. So just be yourself, and do where you can try to build a rapport with the interviewers. Really simple things like just smiling during the interview can make you be remembered. Just simple small things like that can really help. But be yourself. The most important way to stand out is to know your stuff, so know what the role profile's about, know a bit about the institute, and do your research, do your preparation.
Yeah, completely agree. I think often the candidates that stand out are the ones that are, not really like panicking, or, they're just being themselves, they're being authentic, and they have done their research. And I think often, you always get a chance to ask your own questions in an interview at the end. Like, there'll always be time for you to ask us questions. Make the most of that, because if you have done your research, it really shows, because you'll have really interesting questions to ask at the end. And that's what we're interested in, is seeing that you've got that interest, that you really want to work at somewhere like Sanger, that you're really keen to be part of the scheme and be part of the community and the network that the scheme offers. And if you can show that in the interview and ask some really insightful questions about that, then it definitely really comes across.
Fantastic. And just as we get through the last few questions, it'd be great, guys, if you could drop some comments in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking in terms of this session. Is it valuable? What would you like more of? Give us some feedback in the chat as we close out. I actually just wanted to get there's a few other questions about some of the functions in the chat as well. So I wonder if we could just sort of skim over a couple of those quickly. So there's a question about supply chain and what that is basically. So could you give us sort of maybe just even an example of supply chain in this context?
Yeah, so the supply chain placement, our supply chain department is actually relatively new at Sanger, but you could be working on a project that could be to do with forecasting. So, for example, we obviously buy a lot of scientific equipment. We are constantly keeping up with the demand of our researchers, with what equipment they need. So supply chain does a really important job of planning what equipment we might need. So, for example, during the pandemic, there was a global shortage on gloves. And we at Sanger use a lot of gloves in our labs. So part of the forecasting project is to make sure, okay, there's some stuff going on in the world right now. How is this going to impact on supply chains, both globally and locally? And what do we need to do to make sure that we've got that continued supply so that our research doesn't stop? Because you can't just kind of pause research. Like if you've got lots of live research going on with cells that need, daily scientific experiments happening to them and whatnot. I'm not a scientist, can't really tell you exactly what happens in the labs. But the supply chain placement, you might be working on forecasting projects, you'll be working on planning projects, you'll be working with a variety of stakeholders across the campus, from people in the labs to people in like management teams. You'll be probably working with the Sanger logistics services and the procurement teams and finance. It's a really good placement.
Oh, terrific. And just to talk about how the scheme fit together, that's really interesting, by the way, that just little nuance there of, sort of running low on gloves, because you don't really think about this, but then, that having an impact on Sanger. And so that's part of what you could be getting involved in supply chains, of forecasting what you might need. And then am I right in saying the procurement team is the one that actually, negotiates the deal to buy the gloves then?
Yeah, essentially. So supply chain, we'll do the forecasting and say, look, there's global supply chain problems going on at the moment. We might have problems with sourcing gloves in the next 6 to 12 months. Procurement will go, right, okay, we need to find some extra suppliers. We need to have backup suppliers in case our usual suppliers can't supply us with our normal supply of gloves. We might look at additional products as well as from the different suppliers. negotiating with those suppliers, contract management is part of procurement. The procurement process in itself, you have to make sure that it's a fair process and that you're not giving an advantage to one supplier over another. There's literally so much to do, and I think it's one of those areas that you probably don't learn about that much unless you're doing a really specific university course related to it. But it's really interesting, and there's a lot online to search. If you literally search what is procurement, there's a lot of really interesting articles that you can find out about.
Brilliant. That's really interesting. And last question for me in terms of the grants then as well. So how does that work? So is that sort of Sanger giving out grants to third parties to do research? And so you select who you're giving grants to?
No, not quite. So our researchers, we've got top researchers in the world here at Sanger. They apply for grant funding for a variety of reasons within academia. It's just part of what academia is. You want to get these prestigious grants from these prestigious funders, for example, the European Commission, UK Research Innovation, that's like the UK government version of funding, Cancer Research UK. We apply for grants for all of these top funders. So the grants office play a really pivotal role in helping researchers and the research admin team get these grant applications in. And we have a really good success rate. Our researchers are very good at getting some very prestigious grants. For example, our director, Mike Stratton, is actually part of the Cancer Research Grand Challenge team, who are the successful recipients of a £20 million grant from Cancer Research UK. So yeah, there's a lot of money at play here. I think when you're applying for some of these grants for crazy amounts of money, you're kind of thinking, wow, this is incredible. All this money is going on science. So it's really good placement.
Yeah. So if you're interested in, finance, money, business, economics, there's a bit of that in there with the finance, with the grants. You obviously got supply chain, just to run through some of these. You've got the more scientific areas with the cellular genetics, scientific operations, legal department, change management, tons of different departments, and really, really exciting stuff. Thanks so much, Dawn and Jenny. Really, really appreciate your time. I've learned a lot, which has been useful for me, but I think there's lots of people who mentioned in the chat they're going to be keen to apply. So I'm sure this is really, really useful. As I mentioned, let us know in the chat as we close out. Thank Jenny and Dawn for their time as well. And let me know what you think. There's a few last questions there about the application process, which we've kind of covered, but I'll just mention it again. I've pinned to the top of the chat the link to the management training scheme, so you can go and have a look at that and do really take on board the lessons that we've shared today. This is being recorded, so you can go and watch it again or listen to specifically the bits where we talked about the application process. Have a think about that as you're applying, and that should really, really help. You obviously got your CV and answers to a few questions initially. We've seen people do really well who can kind of really specifically explain why they are applying, why they're passionate, have a little bit of a think about the mission at Sanger, what they're trying to do, why that's so important and why that resonates with you. And then we've got the assessment centres, which will be online. Those are online, right? Or some of those on campus?
Yeah. Just to say, Toby, I've just put in an email address in the comments. If you have got a specific question about the application process, you can email that email address. You'll also find it in the job description stuff on the website. We've got a team that are looking after that inbox that can answer specific application queries.
Fantastic. So I hope everyone's keen and ready to apply, and best of luck with the application process. And if you are able to get a role at Sanger, good luck as well. I'm sure you'll learn a lot and enjoy what you do as well. Dawn, Jenny, really thanks again for joining the session. It's been really, really good, and really, really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Toby.
No problem. I'm going to close out the session, but as Jenny said, reach out by that email or get in touch with me as well. I think you've all got my email if you've got any questions, and make sure you apply by the end of May. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next session. And by the way, don't forget, look out for that email that you're going to get after the session. If you want to join that private hub where everyone's networking with each other, you can do. Just follow the instructions in there. All right, everyone. See you in the next session. Thanks.